So this video is meant to serve as a follow-up to this video somewhere on screen about the card game Round Table and their use of AI art, which you pretty much need to watch that video before this one. And if you're just interested in Round Table, I could see you wanting to watch this, but again, that one provides the context for this conversation. To do a very brief recap here, this is mostly for people who watched that video when it first released, and they don't want to have to go back and watch it again before this. The TCG, it's an indie card game called Round Table, and they launched on Kickstarter, yada yada. Long story short, I found that they used AI on over half of their cards for the card's artwork. However, they don't disclose that. It's not listed on their site. It's not anywhere. I only found one time where they mentioned the words AI. They talk about placeholder art, but that's kind of about it. In the creation of that video, as I mentioned in the video, I tried to reach out to Bill DeVoe, the creator of the card game. Over 2 weeks later, I heard nothing back. However, after the video went live a few days later, someone informed him of the video's existence, and he got in contact with me, saying that for whatever reason, he didn't see the email. So he still wanted to have a sit down. He still wanted to discuss things if I was willing. I'll be honest, I almost said no, and it's not anything against him. It's nothing against Roundtable. It's just that was a very serious video, and that's not what I do here. This channel is supposed to be fun, but it felt like something that I needed to do. I wanted to give him an opinion, not opinion, to give his chance to explain what happened. And I had the conversation with him that you're about to see earlier today, and I do think it was very productive. Now, it's worth noting here, again, I open Pokemon cards. That's kind of what I do. Like, I'm in the Pokemon community. I do some more serious videos, but I try not to take myself too seriously. I don't do interviews. I don't drill people. I don't do any of this. So if some of you are used to experienced interviewers, and like questionings, that's not me. So I did my best. I think I did pretty good personally, but this was more of just I had a bunch of questions for him. I'm sure a number of you guys did too who watched that video. And now we got some answers. Now, I am going to be playing the conversation in its entirety. Nothing is going to be cut. The only time where things are going to get a little weird is we lost connection during the call. So instead of cutting that segment, I'm just going to speed it up. That way you guys can see that nothing was cut, but it's not just sitting there in silence for a long time. So just to kind of recap, you should watch the video on Roundtable before you watch this conversation. And keep in mind that I don't do these interview things, so I tried my best. I also won't lie, I was rather sleep deprived during this whole thing. It's been a weird time lately. Anyways, let's get straight into the call. Before we start, are you so you're fine if I recorded this?
Absolutely, please
Perfect.
feel free.
So I don't do like interviews. I open Pokemon cards. That's what I do. Like, so I'm not like trying to like ambush you or anything like that.
Mhm.
I most of the things I'm going to talk to you about here today are actually questions I prepared before that video was actually filmed and put out. Um,
Okay.
so a number of those you've actually already answered via your email and via your post on your website. But if
Okay.
you'd like to introduce yourself, um,
Yeah, totally. So, my name is Bill. I'm the president and lead game designer for Nimue Innovation Studios. We have a trading card game called Round Table TCG, and we're working on other games. Just released another board game called Sudoku. So it's in pre-release right now, actually. So we're looking for a publisher for that.
okay. Yeah, I saw some things on that, but I didn't really dig too much into
Mhm.
it.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, it's on a TCG. So
Yeah, that's fair. Um, okay, so of course you've seen the video already, and you have
I have.
responded. So originally the first thing I wanted to ask you was if you could confirm the use of AI, and of course you have already done so.
Yeah,
Um,
we so yeah, for so I mean go into the history of that a little bit if you'd like.
yeah,
So when I first started developing the game, which actually was over 10 years ago now, I put a bunch of placeholder art in there, much in the same way that Magic did. I mean, I kind of took some images offline. I had some stuff
Yeah.
that I just kind of had laying around, photos from, I've got the Pendragon game here, like really early, but I'm not even sure what edition this is, third maybe. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of, round table style stuff in there. And so I took a bunch of those pictures and had those in there. But when we began developing the game for real, I finally got sort of like the wild hair and said, I'm done um, just having this take up background processes in my brain. I want to do something about it, actually get it out. And so we began to look at uh, putting the whole game together, getting everything done, working through the rules, the whole nine yards. And part of that was replacing the crap that I had with something that was more representative of what we wanted the art to look like when the game was done. And we tried to use the model that Magic used when it started, which was in, much the same way that Magic did things. We tried to do those things as well, which was to compensate artists by having them have, in essence, shares and profit sharing. So we've committed that 50% of the profits are going to go to the artists as a pool, and that they will be paid out based on the number of shares they have versus the total shares that have been issued. So, if there's 100 shares issued and you have five, you get 5% of the total pool. Unfortunately, we haven't had any profits yet. We're still struggling with that, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I mean it's
But
not an easy thing to
yeah,
launch, and it's gonna take time to get there. Um,
yep. So we used AI again. Again, I think that the rationale was we want to be able to show what the game could look like and what we wanted those things to be like. And through that, we actually got some tremendous feedback when we were doing our Kickstarter at Gen Con. We actually got really good feedback from some of the playtesters saying, hey, I don't like this, or I prefer this, or whatever it was. And so, that feedback actually tweaked the direction that we needed to change things. We had to change up a whole bunch of the designs, a whole bunch of the verbiage. So a lot of the text had to change. We had to adjust things. We had to adjust some of the rarities in the cards. There's like a whole number. There was a huge number of changes that came out of our first exposure playtest hall experiments. And at the same time, we're still trying to get artwork. We'd ran several contests. We'd reached out to artists directly. And unfortunately, almost every artist we talked to either never responded or responded and said, well, I'm not open for commissions, or I'm open for commissions and you can do this. And we're like, but that's not the model we're going with. We're hoping you have something you've already done that we can just simply include in the game. And the other thing that we do, and we're really proud of, is that we don't have rights to the art. So any of the art that the people have submitted is theirs. They retain all the rights to anything that they want to do with it: tapestries, bath mats, mouse pads, whatever it is, prints. They, it's all theirs. All we have is the right to use it integrated with the card and printed on a card. So again, we thought we were trying to be very equitable and fair with how we were working with the artists, but unfortunately, we just could not get the artists lined up to be able to do the work that we needed to get done. And sadly, we had a deadline of getting everything done by the end of 2023. So we had to actually go to print before the end of the year. And so we had a bunch of, at the time, placeholder art that we were hoping to replace. And Jean Bautista, who was our cartographer, she did all of the regions except for Camelot. And she did almost all the weapons. She had done a lot of the work to try to help move at least some of that stuff off onto, hey, look, this is art from a real person. But we had a lot more placeholder art that went to print and became the final art for now, for the Primus edition, than we ever wanted. I mean, again, our entire intent was all of the art was from hopefully up and coming artists,
right.
and that it was going to be from people, but we just could not make the connections. We couldn't make all of our contests. We had tons of people that we reached out to, and just nothing really came to fruition. And I'm not an artist. I mean, I'm a game designer. That doesn't, I have zero artistic ability. And so I couldn't just draw stuff. And I didn't feel, we had a conversation internally and we're like, should we go to print with what we have? And the answer was yes, it's good enough. Some,
Oh, I believe we're losing some connection here. Yeah, just 1 second, if you can hear me. I think I might have completely lost you. Okay.
Hi there.
I think I have you back. That was
Okay.
bizarre.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not wired directly, but I have a pretty good network.
It could have just been Discord. The fact that hanging up and calling back fixed it. Um,
Oh, okay. Awesome.
so
So I'm not sure where we got to.
I mean, I can kind of follow off of that. So first off, yeah, I understand. I'm also not an artist. My wife is, but she doesn't do a whole lot of like, contracting, all of that stuff. I've only ever hired an artist a couple times, and I have to imagine part of it is also like it's a very different model than a lot of them are probably used to, which probably scares a number of them off. Um,
Yes, agreed.
I've had some contacts in the past where they wanted. I'm so used to doing it this specific way that when they come to me with like, "Hey, let's do it this way instead," I'm like, I don't know about that, and that's probably
Yeah, yeah,
part of the issue. I will say it sounds like
sure.
an interesting way of doing almost like a profit share kind of deal.
Absolutely. That was the intent, was profit sharing for the artists. And again, it's as the company builds, and not just within Roundtable, but collectively. Our plan was to take half of the profits and share them with those artists. And again, we don't have the rights to the art just to reproduce it on the cards. And so, we've done I think we've been very fair and equitable about the model we want to set up.
and
The point is trying to find a way to make the money to be able to share with them, to get the profit that
yeah,
we can share.
I imagine, just to clarify, so you have the rights to print it onto the cards. I assume you'd also have the rights to use the cards themselves for marketing as well, correct? Like
Yes.
not just like the ripped art, but the full card for marketing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So anything that we're doing is either a full card with someone's art on it, or it's the art that we created as the placeholder art that we just ended up using because we had rights to that, quote unquote. And again, I was always trying to say, we had the debate internally of whether we should go to print with what we had. I mean, we were at that point where it was like, am I pulling the trigger on this and we're going to print these cards, or are we doing something
So
else?
I wanted
And
to ask on that. So why, if you're able to answer, why did you have such a hard deadline for that? Because you were saying that you basically had to pull the trigger then, right? That it was
right.
like, what was the reason that you had that hard deadline? Was it had like
Well,
the printing company or?
it was a bit of the printing company, a bit of the financials, and then just, are we moving forward with this thing? And we made promises during the Kickstarter, and I hesitated to go back to them because I know, as a Kickstarter backer myself, I know I kind of hate it when somebody comes back and says, yeah, I mean, you look at like the Sandy Peterson stuff, and it's like, yeah, we're not going to deliver this at all. And we didn't want to do that at all. I mean, certainly,
Fair.
but we began to look at where have we been having success and where haven't we? And the answer was, we're not getting success at getting additional art. We've been trying for 2 years now. We're just not getting it. Do we go to print with what we have? And the answer was yes. So, and like I said, I know some people in the environment, I really couldn't care less about AI art. If it looks good, it's cool. And other people are like, get that AI fart out of here. I'm actually a member of a Discord, and I posted up something, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, AI!" Ugh. And I'm like, "Dude, I get it. I understand your feelings on the matter. It's what we had, and I'm sorry. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, and it's not the product for you." That said, as we have said in our post, our goal moving forward is going to be 100% human art in all of our products. So we've been working on the collaborative mode now for a while, but we haven't gotten as far with it as I'd hoped. And that will have to have artwork that's going to come from real artists. And then we have plans for, but have not been working on, an expansion called the Fae, which would
Okay.
also have new artwork that we would have to be reaching out to people. But again, as you pointed out, the model is not a familiar one to people, and so they're a little reluctant. And even when I say things like, "Look, we're not going to have the rights to your art. We're not doing anything with it other than printing on the cards," they're like, "Yeah, no, nah, it's okay." So, and also we just simply can't afford to commission everything. And I don't want to be that business model of running Kickstarters to make a product and then be done with it kind of thing. I'd rather be making a product that people want to play, you know, on the weekends or with their friends and stuff, and not have it be a tremendous uh, uh, onerous thing for them to be able to that they I only have this because I backed the Kickstarter and I can't get it any other
Yeah.
way, kind of thing. So I want to try to make it as available as possible when reach as many people without causing them to have to back a Kickstarter or something.
And I've definitely seen a lot of that sentiment from, especially on that video. But of course, again, I'm Pokemon community. You have a lot of art focused people,
Sure.
and I see a lot of both sides of that. Right, some people who
Mhm.
are perfectly fine with things that are AI. They would pay for AI artwork. All of that. And you have kind of one extreme where they don't even care if it's disclosed or not. They don't even care if they know if it's AI or not. That
Right.
that's a much smaller minority, at least from my point of view. But then you
Yeah.
have the other side who the extreme on the other end is no AI ever whatsoever. I kind
Yep.
of find myself more in the middle. Now, if Roundtable, for example, were to continue using AI going forward, right?
Right.
Personally, I would just lose interest. It's
Sure.
like I'm a collector first and foremost. I do like playing card games, but it's something in the brain. um,
Right.
and
Well, yeah, it's about the cool stuff. I get it.
but
I
if
I have that card gremlin
yeah, yeah.
gene as well.
So to me, I'm a bit in the middle. It's where I think a lot of people land, and it's a sentiment I
Mhm.
saw a fair amount in the comments on that video. Is they don't mind the use of the AI, especially for like a first release as a placeholder. They just wish it was transparent. It was clarified up front. That's what it
Absolutely.
is. And that,
Yeah.
that that was my biggest concern when I first
Mhm.
made my original video, not the roundtable one, but the Every TCG project. Which
Right. The opening the cards. I saw that one. Yeah.
yeah, um, when some people were mentioning like, hey, roundtable probably uses AI, and I looked into it. If I would have found immediately like front page like AI is
Yep.
used right on the Kickstarter, on your website, anywhere, I that video wouldn't have happened. It would have been it would have been
Sure.
a update on the pin comment where I have it's like a novel right now, that pin comment. um, saying
Right.
like, "Hey, like yes, Roundtable uses AI in their initial release. They have a thing for it." It took me a long time to find that one mention of AI on your site that was posted in 2023
Yeah.
before you even launched, announcing your
Kickstarter.
your Kickstarter and that you were going to be at Gen Con. That
Right.
was the only mention I could find anywhere of AI, and that was after I spent I think about 2 days, running about 60 something cards through AI generation detection,
Yeah.
um, before I found that. So that was my biggest issue, is the lack of disclosure. I know that, and I haven't looked deeply into them because they weren't in that video. I actually that video is gonna be doing a follow-up that's gonna be even longer because I missed a lot of card games. Um, uh,
There's a lot out there.
yeah, there's at least one other card game that does also use AI, but they do disclose it, and
Mm.
they're very bold on on their use of AI,
Okay.
and they don't show any signs of stopping. Um,
Right.
they're rather proud of it. It seems they actually spend a lot of money, according to their claims, on their use of AI. It's kind of the opposite
Hmm.
reason that you would
Okay.
normally use AI. Um,
Yeah, that is a little odd.
but the Kickstarter, like not Kickstarter, that card game is actually doing well for itself. And I think a part of that
Cool.
is because they were transparent from the get go that
Sure.
AI was being used. So I did want to ask, kind of along those lines. Of course, in my video, I mentioned that Kickstarter rolled out their policy on AI disclosure, and so it
Yep.
started like, what was it, like 20 days, something like that, after your Kickstarter
Yeah.
launch is when it went into
Yeah.
effect.
It was almost, yeah, it was the end of the month.
Yeah,
We launched our at the beginning of August, and the policy came into effect at the end of
yeah,
August. But we also launched our pre-campaign page like in May. So that was when we first created the whole thing, to post up on Kickstarter and say, like, here's the preview, try to get people interested in the game at that point, et cetera. So, when we first went through, okay, when I first went through that intake process, it was never something that came out as a, by the way, we're changing our policy or anything. And I think, again, the hope that we had, even going all the way to the end of the year, was we were going to be able to
right,
replace the art with actual art. So disclosing that we were using AI art was like, well, we're not planning to. So we wouldn't disclose it in the Kickstarter because our plan was to have all human art, and it wouldn't have been something that we would have had to disclose other times. It was, however, an oversight and and a fail on my part, particularly to highlight that we were. When people come up to us in conventions, or when they're looking through the we have the folder with all the cards in it, and people are looking through it, and it's like, hey, is some of this AI? We're like, yep, absolutely, it is, and we explain, here's what happened, and here's what we tried to do, and we do point them to, and here's all the art that we did get, that we like, and point them to those pages and stuff. A lot of the quests that we got were people or human, but like the people, most of the knights, we had a devil of a time getting anything from above actual humans, to put in as knights and stuff. And pretty much everything we got that was a human ended up as a knight. And but we had 72 nights in the game, and there's just like, we just didn't get anywhere near 72 submissions, which was very disappointing. So yeah, so as I said in the post, it was an opportunity for us to disclose it. We failed to do so, and we take responsibility for that.
okay.
Um,
So I
but yeah, we didn't have, we did, like I said, we didn't even realize that that thing had come through on Kickstarter. Somebody left a comment on our Kickstarter saying, hey, why didn't you disclose AI art? And we're like, well, actually, we didn't have to because the policy wasn't even in effect. But then, as I explained, we didn't plan to have any AI art in the game at all. And we were hoping that we still had time to replace everything. And then, just said, there's a confluence of things that came together that kind of put it that we had to pull the trigger by, I think I submitted the order for printing on like the 29th or something of December. It was about as late as I could possibly make it. And I was still reaching out to people all the way through December. And of course, the holidays, it's hard to get a hold of anybody, and we just didn't get hardly anything, at that point. So it was very
so
disappointing for us.
that was kind of my question. So when you launched, you were not aware of their AI policy. That was, again, it
Didn't
wasn't
have
a
one.
thing yet. They had announced it, but it wasn't a thing yet. Um,
Right.
okay,
And we had no details on about it at all. Actually, I wasn't even aware that Kickstarter was making that
right.
a thing. So
Um, so
I must have missed that memo at some point. But again, it wasn't part of the intake process. when you're
Right.
filling out that form to create the Kickstarter, at no point did it ask, oh, by the way, does your stuff use AI? Because I would have clicked yes.
Yeah. So
At
when
least for the
so when you
Kickstarter,
when
you
you
know.
did learn about that disclosure, did you consider like, hey, I should go back on my Kickstarter and add a disclosure? Like now that you know, like, again, you don't have to comply with the policy because you're grandfathered
Good.
in. But did you
Yeah.
consider doing that?
No, actually, I didn't, and I probably should have.
Okay, because yeah, that
Although, I mean, nobody can back it still, so it's kind of out there for archival purposes more than it is as anything that's active. I mean, I guess we still do get people that end up on Kickstarter and they find it, so I probably should update it.
yeah, I
But I
actually
because it had passed and funded, I was kind of like, well, not that big of a deal. But as you point out, and as I think I've seen from some of the metrics, the analytics that we're getting, we are getting some people hitting it from Kickstarter. So
yeah, I will
we
say
definitely should disclose it.
when you Google Roundtable card game, the first thing that pulls up is still the Kickstarter. So a lot of people, if they hear about it,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that they're going to see. Now, if they type in Roundtable TCG, it actually takes them to your Square site. So
Oh,
you got good
okay.
SEO on that one.
Which is funny because I suck at SEO. But yeah, so I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'll absolutely go back and update that and explain that, yes, we are using AI. Many of the cards that we printed use AI. So
Okay.
I'll make sure to include that.
Um,
I appreciate your making me aware.
so my next one, which again we're kind of already past this, I basically wanted to ask you about disclosure on the product itself. But again, your
Mhm.
plan wasn't to even continue forward with the AI. So the way you were looking at it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to my understanding, the way that you were looking at it was this is effectively a placeholder, almost like a playable beta, effectively. And
Yeah.
we don't need to disclose it because it won't be this way in the future. It if you were to do reprints today, like right now, and you were to continue with AI cards in a reprint today, would you include on the packs themselves or the box, whatever else, a disclosure
Mm.
somewhere about AI?
Um, that's a good question because we don't currently sell it in a retail setting at all. So the only place that you can buy it is online, and we do disclose it in our stores
Okay, so
online. So
have
there's
you added the
the Square site
disclosures?
has it. Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's on the Square site, and it's on eBay, and there's one other one. Oh, TikTok, which of course we don't
Oh,
really do anything with. But
okay. Yeah,
but yeah,
I did
I
not see
did.
that you sold on there.
Yeah, but I did. Yeah, Nimue Studios is on there, and we do have a store, but like I said, we're not promoting it at all. We're doing anything, but yeah, we do include it on that. And for anything that we would potentially work with a retailer on, we would make sure to have something on there that denotes that this product does contain AI generated artwork. What I do know is, I mean, we went to print with the expectation that we were going to sell to game stores. When I went to Gamma Expo in 2024, which was before we officially launched the game, um, we got disabused of that notion pretty quickly. We learned a lot. My daughter, who's my social media manager, and okay, she's more my daughter who posts some things on my behalf than a social media manager, but that's her official title. And she and I went to Gamma Expo and got a very harsh lesson in reality from distributors and retailers. And in essence, they're like, look, if I don't know who you are, I'm not going to buy a product I have to throw away in 6 months. And we're like, okay, that was brutal. Um, but I get it. So we actually had to pretty drastically modify our intentions and how we were going to market things. And so we went from a B2B model. We were going to sell to businesses. We're going to B2C. So now we're selling directly to consumers because that's the only way we can really get our product into places. We did have a home store for Roundtable here in Colorado. Unfortunately, they closed. So we don't have any retail outlets at all. And the only thing that we're doing is selling directly, either via one of those three mechanisms right now.
And
And
to my
so,
understanding, that can be one of the hardest things to kind of get going off the bat is locking down distributors. What,
well, and yeah, it's even worse than that because we learned talking to retailers what their expectations were, and then we learned from distributors what their expectations were, and we're like, we can't do that. We take a loss on every product that we
yeah,
sold through a distributor. And so we're like, we appreciate your honesty and being upfront and laying out like, look, this is the lay of the land, and you have to, this is the bar to entry. We're like, okay, we don't meet it. So yeah, both of those paths very quickly dried up for us. Um, and I mean, within like 2 hours, like
yeah.
the one session was with the retailers, the next session was distributors. And we're like, well, frack. Okay,
And
plan
I
Q, I
imagine
guess. I don't know.
I imagine that conversation has happened with a large number of indie card games. I
It has.
doing research
It's what you
on
don't
a lot
know.
of this, and part of it from that every TCG video is sometimes it's just having the right connections to launch off from is what leads to it. Flesh and
Totally.
Blood, the developer behind Flesh and Blood, he spent like 7-8 years working on it, just kind of like
Hmm.
behind the scenes. He actually worked in card stores. He worked in distribution itself, so he worked for these distribution companies before. So
Yep.
he had all these connections throughout the TCG world. He knew distributors like by name, by phone number. And so when Flesh and
Yep.
Blood launched, he had a worldwide release on day one because he had built those connections over God knows how many years, right?
A career. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you effectively didn't have like, and this isn't calling you out in any way, but if you didn't have the history, right, going back, because
Hmm.
if I had to guess, he's been doing it since he was like a teenager, right? He
Yeah.
just happened to find himself on that path super early, which set him up to be able to do that, right?
Yes.
If someone like you or me without those connections were to do it, it's a lot harder to lock down a distributor, and you have to go a lot harder on the personal marketing to get to that point.
Yes. Well, I mean, what it is it's developing the skills required to do those things. And so I've been a game designer for a very, very long time. I was also a software engineer for a long time. So I have the mind of thinking about systems and complexity and pieces working together. So, and so do the people that I have in my life. So, we were all coming at it from one very specific not tangent, but direction. But other pieces of it we just didn't have. Like, I don't have graphic design skills. I mean, I can work my way around GIMP, but put me in front of Illustrator, I got no clue. I accidentally met someone while I was advertising for artwork, who happened to be a graphic designer. And he was like, "Hey, your project sounds really cool. I'd love to be part of it." And I was like, "I would love to have you as part of it. So yes, please come on board and help us out." And so he did. And then we had somebody else, like my daughter's boyfriend at the time in high school. He was like, "Hey, I'd love to help out with cons and stuff." We're like, "Great, perfect. Come on in and let's do that." So we got lucky in being able to coalesce a team to come up with the game and get it to a point where we could print it. The next step, and I kind of likened this to, it's like a triathlon. The first part, the swimming part, was getting the game built, the rules, play testing it, vetting everything, making sure it all worked, and then getting it to the point where we could launch it. The next part, which is the biking part, is like, okay, now we got to sell it. And we got to, figure out how we're going to market it and all those things. And there's a lot of people who are like, I want to do the swimming part, and then I want to ditch. You give me the medal, I'm gone. And so most of our team was like that. They're like, thank you very much. I appreciate it. This was really cool experience, but I'm done. I don't want to be part of the biking part, the selling it. That sounds like a grind, and truly it is. So, and that's the part that I don't have any natural skills in. So that's where I'm struggling, is on that sales piece. And to your point, I don't have those connections. I've been developing them, going to cons,
Yeah,
meeting
yeah.
with publishers and all that stuff. But to your point, it's not.
And I believe you were at
I didn't have
Gen Con
it to
this year,
begin with.
correct?
Sorry.
You were at Gen Con again this year, correct?
We were not with a booth, but we did do Learn to Plays.
Okay.
So we were at Origins with with a booth and with Learn to Plays.
Yeah, so you were
So
a
we're
finalist there, correct?
showcasing both. We were. We got finalist for constructible card game.
Okay.
We lost to Bloomborough, but small fuzzy animals, we had no chance.
Fair.
So I recognize that going. We're like, we're not going to win. It would be cool, but we're not going to win. So
You have a lot more fans of the small fuzzy animals than history buff, sadly. I mean, I'm kind of a mixture of both. I do Pokemon, but I'm also a history nerd, so
yeah.
I'm kind of a weird bit of both camps there.
Well, and I mean,
So
we also had like, Lorcana was in there and
yeah,
Flesh and
yeah,
Blood, I think, was in there. We're like, that is truly, we were honored to be nominated because we knew we didn't have a chance. But we made the bar for them to say, hey, look, this is a really interesting game. And we think it deserves some recognition for that.
yeah.
The artwork aside, the game mechanics, how the game plays, I think we've got a very solid game despite the challenges that we have with the visual presentations.
Okay. So I know we're kind of jumping around again. I'm running off of pretty loose notes here and kind of going
That's
back
fine.
and forth. Um, so you talked about the Fae, and my original concern, and my wife is going to laugh watching this video because I've actually ranted with her about this, and this was probably the most upsetting part to me, but it was just a misunderstanding, at least based on what you're telling me here. So my understanding, again, based on you talking about the upcoming set, yada yada, was that the
Mhm.
Fae was effectively in development already, and that was my concern. And
Right.
I understand, like the first set, gameplay wise is done, right?
Hmm.
So like
Yep.
in downtime, just kind of spitballing ideas in a notepad, ideas for oh, what if we do this type of card or this ability, right?
Hmm.
But the actual like dev process, like if time and effort's going into that when the first set in my eyes isn't even done yet, it feels like why are we spending our time on the next set? Because my fear is that the next set is going to suffer from the same issue. It's also going to release with AI art because
Hmm.
part one's not done. To me it looks like when a game developer launches a game in early access that they launched on Kickstarter, and then they stop doing updates for it, and then they use the money from that Kickstarter to launch a new game.
Right. Yeah.
um, but to my
Well,
understanding, what you're saying here is that you're not actually in the dev process yet. You're just kind of in the getting ideas, I suppose.
in a way, so the intent behind the Fae is introducing the magical realm. So introducing Avalon, and then doing some things with that. We have some intention around like what are the characters going to be, and we have, and but we're also looking at. We wanted the first edition of the game to be pretty straightforward from a mechanics perspective. There's not a lot in there that's like overly complicated. It certainly isn't Magic from 2000, let alone Magic from 2025. Um, we don't have a lot of abilities. We don't have a lot of wonky behavior, that kind of stuff. The idea behind the Fae was it was going to introduce magic, which was going to play with the base rules, and so that's kind of the intent, and that's the direction it's going. Is it's another world. It's not human in particular, and that it would have abilities and rules and stuff that would play with the underlying mechanics. That said, we have not done any real work. I mean, I started creating some cards in terms of like laying out like who it is, what they might have for an ability, what
Right.
their toughness and
Kind of like downtime
resistance would
kind
be.
of.
Exactly, but nothing in terms of like building cards, figuring out what all that stuff's going to be. What is the expansion symbol going to look like? I no clue. We have not remotely gotten to that point. And part of that is because of the traction of the base game. If the base game was taking off and we were selling, 20 copies a week, I would be investing more in trying to make the expansion happen. but because we still need to get the base game to be more accepted and more uh, uh, used and played on a regular basis, we're not that worried right now about the expansion. So that's the intent. But to your point, we're not doing anything, and we haven't certainly made cards that we would be play testing. We're not at that level
Okay.
remotely. I've got spreadsheets. I have Google Sheets with characters and all the different the new kinds of cards that we might add and the new characters that we might add and that kind of stuff, but nothing from a implementation perspective, and certainly nothing physical. Like I couldn't go and say, "Hey, here's a card from the Fae."
Yeah.
That doesn't exist,
Okay.
either digitally or in reality. So,
Um, okay.
and
So,
again, we would be looking to make sure that we had like artwork lined up for that from artists before we
right.
got into it. So,
Maybe I'm not saying this is what you would have to do, but I imagine that if you downscale, because I know you like how many cards ended up being in your in premise. I know you originally announced 250, but it ended up being less than that.
it's
Um,
actually 254
oh,
total
is it?
cards. Yeah. There are 30 regions. There's 20 lands. So there's 204 cards in the base set, but the total set is
Okay,
254 cards.
okay, I get you. So I imagine your second set, just guessing, it would end up being a bit smaller because it would make it more
Yes.
feasible to get the artists, and you already have like the core set down. Now your second set can be a smaller release to kind of play into it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And again, looking at early Magic, Arabian Nights or Antiquities certainly weren't, 300 card sets. So we're not looking at anything like that. We're looking at probably in the 70 to 80 card range, kind of
And
just,
based on
spitballing it.
based on my math, you have, and again, this number might not be exact, but based on your wiki counting by hand, you have 86 cards that are credited. So again, a lot of that is going to be your region cards, and the weapon cards that were done by how do you pronounce it? Is it Genie?
It's just Gene.
Gene. Okay. Um.
Yeah.
That were done by her. Her, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Yep,
um.
that's fine. I
Uh.
appreciate you
But
clarifying.
still, 86 cards done by all together credited. So with being able to do 86 currently, theoretically, you could that's a lot more achievable goal for your next set to
Yes,
be able to
exactly.
avoid doing placeholder art.
Exactly. Yes. And
Um,
that would be the intent. Would be like I said, we would definitely want to again focus on a smaller set because it's going to be more like I said, it's going to play more with the universe and it's going to, tweak things and change how the game is played, which we want to make it a little bit more interesting. So the cards would have more impact. And so you're not going to need as many of them to like really, you know,
yeah,
flesh something out because it's already fleshed out. Yeah, and anything that we do from here on out, like if we do a Secundus, printing or something like that, we would go back to make sure that all of the art from Primus that was not from an art that was not from humans was replaced. We do have, I did, however, I'm not sure if you saw, but we did update the attributions for
I
the
did
Once
not.
More with Feeling and for Excalibur. And I did call you out actually on the wiki for your noting on the attribution for Once More with Feeling because that was a very difficult. The play where I got it from credited it to Franz Hals.
Okay, it did.
So I just said, well, you know better than I do because you're the place I'm getting it from. So, and then I looked and I looked at the Leicester image and I looked at the Halls image and I realized the one that we had was the Leicester image.
Yeah,
And so
I was gonna ask you about
it
that
was
because
interesting.
I'm not like an ancient, like medieval, like Renaissance art expert
Hmm.
by any means. I just kind of I did a bunch of reverse image searches, and to be fair, the one that I originally found was the one by Franz Hals, which is the most popular version
Hmm.
of the loot player.
Right.
But there are a lot of depictions of the loot player, and
Yes,
I
there
was
are.
kind of looking at like some of the like finer details and like the shading and stuff, and of course, you could have tweaked the image a bit, which I know you've done on some of the other historical cards, like you've mirrored them and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
these aren't the same. This isn't the same image, and so I eventually found that one by Judith Lester. So you have confirmed now that that was Judith Lester's artwork and not Franz Hall's?
Yes, actually, so the Wikipedia page for that artwork by her has that listed, or I'm sure, I'm not sure if it is a her or a him, because
Yeah,
Judith can be a
yeah,
guy's name in that era.
yeah.
And so, but the work by Leicester is slightly different than the work by Halls, and so I did find something that was discriminating evidence, and so I did correct it, and I did put down that we've misattributed it to Franz Halls on the card, but that it really truly is Judith Leister. And then I said, and I appreciate you specifically for pointing that out and then doing that effort to find out who had actually done it. But again, the source that I got it from
Right.
claimed that it was Halls, so they had not done their due diligence in
It's kind
making sure
of
they got the right one.
it's actually not the first time I saw that while looking into that artwork. Again, the loot player, the most famous version is Franz Hall's, and so because the
Yep.
other depictions, a lot of them are very similar. A lot of people associate other people's depiction of it with Hall's, and it's like, oh, this is
Yes.
the loot player by Hall's, especially if they're going off of memory, right? Because like
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
they were painting an image of the same person, the same
Hmm.
the same canvas to begin with.
Yeah.
So I
It's the same subject, the same pose, the same everything. It's just it's different interpretations
yeah,
of it, and they're slightly different. So, but like I said, I was able to find that one piece, and then we also credited the Excalibur artist.
that was also on my
Um,
list of questions here. So the artist that I found through the stock image site, was that where you got it from? Was that the original artist?
we
Or
got it through Adobe,
okay,
and it was for Gregory, I think is the name of the artist.
I think
I
that's
linked his site actually from our wiki for people who are
okay.
interested. They can actually go, and then if you click on the artist, it will take you to his actual art
That
site.
was one of the
So
hardest ones to find. He has like 50
yeah,
depictions of the Sword in the Stone, and
yeah,
I had to go through every one of them looking for differences to figure out which one you guys used on the card.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That one, yeah, that one. I mean, so we paid for it, and so we got, we had the rights to use it commercially.
Yeah, I mean,
We got the commercial license on it, but
as I mentioned in the
and it was
video,
the best one I could find. It was the problem was that I had it was so hard to find good depictions of Excalibur that I liked,
yeah,
that when we finally found one, we're just like, okay, fine, we're gonna lose money to do this, but we're gonna do it because we want to get a good picture because it's Excalibur.
yeah.
So,
Um,
but yeah, oversight on our part, on my part specifically, for not attributing him on the card.
yeah, like I understand, like I thought I mentioned in the video is like I understand like legally you don't have to. You have the rights to it.
Yep.
You paid for effectively a no credit, a royalty free image.
Yep.
So you didn't have to, but again, like me as a collector, it's I don't follow artists as tightly as some people do in the TCG space, but like
Hmm.
I know people in Pokemon and Magic and all these hobbies who they collect cards from very specific artists.
I
Um,
went Doug Schuler. I went Christopher Rush.
yeah,
Exactly. Yes,
yeah.
I get it completely.
And so to me, it's
There's
like,
styles that you like the folios. Phil and
yeah,
Kaya folio. Having the Mishra's Factories kind of thing. That's a style I like, and yeah, I would collect their stuff specifically
yeah,
because it's just
and
it's just artwork that I resonate with.
yeah,
So
and like
I totally
I
understand
understand when it comes to Excalibur, it's like you're probably not going to do another image by that person, right? It's unlikely, anyways.
it. Yeah.
But still, it would allow people if they pull the card to like the artwork to look into it and find the person who made that artwork.
Yep.
Um, okay,
I thought it was an excellent point that you raised, and as I said, we went ahead and credited him because it was a good point about people wanting to find art similar to that from artists,
yeah,
and so they'd be able to go and look at his portfolio and say, hey, yeah, I do like this stuff. So totally understood, and I completely supported it. So
okay. I don't have too many more things to go over. We'll
Okay.
we'll probably get one of the more rough ones out of the way here. Hopefully, it's not actually that rough. Um, I have no idea how to pronounce it. I'm really bad with some of these names. But I mentioned in the video a card that was done by Noah. The card is NGOL.
Gustafson. Yes,
Um,
Engel.
Engel. Okay.
Mhm.
So, can you confirm whether or not that was AI generated? Did you know if it was? Because all three of the AI generation checkers I ran it through gave it a, I don't remember what the total percent was. It was as high as all of the other confirmed AI generated cards, but
Right.
it was credited to a person, which is the only one that I found anyways. Again, I haven't done all 250 cards. Like I
Right.
only ran about 60 something, 70 through these checkers. Um
Yeah.
so were you aware? Can you confirm if it is or not?
So Noah's actually one of our primary supporters, and the level that he backed at allowed him to have a card in the game from
Okay.
the Kickstarter. So the artwork that we got was from him. Now, he may have used an AI generator for it. He might have had a friend draw something very cartoony. I'm not sure, but since the artwork came from him, he has the credit for that artwork for that card because it didn't come from us and it didn't
Okay.
come from another artist.
Because I saw
So
it.
that's why that one is credited to him specifically.
Because
So
on your wiki, it was like, I don't remember what the exact term was. It was like core team.
legendarist.
Well, it was like on your like list of
Yeah,
like credits on the all about new about. I'm probably getting the name wrong. I probably did the entire video at Nimue. How do you pronounce it?
Nimue.
Nimue. Um,
Yep.
on your page, it has him listed as like almost like a staff member.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and for a while he was helping
okay,
us flush out the wiki. So he helped us reach our goal on Kickstarter, and then he helped us also by becoming our legendarist for a little bit of time, which is a person who is responsible for creating the mythology of the game
that
because
was
there are so
kind
many
of my
different
guess.
versions. Yeah, there's so many different versions of the Arthurian legends, and some of them Parsifal is a dick, and some of them Parsifal is a great Grail knight.
Yeah,
And so, which one is he? And so the legendarist, the intent there was to have somebody who could create a consistent mythology for the game. What does the background of the game look like? Who are these people? How are they related? What are their attributes, their traits, their
effectively a
loves, their
lore,
fears?
like a lore master,
Lore
effectively.
master. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so I had somebody in mind, a guy I've known for God about 40 years now. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it. And Noah was like, "Hey, look, I would love to participate as that." And we're like, "Sold."
Yeah.
As you saw, a very small team, and all of those people were part time and doing this in their copious free time. So we did not have, we don't have dedicated staff. We're not making salaries off of
Right.
this. This is all hobby at best. And so, he did help out in that role for that. And again, because of his support in the Kickstarter, he was able to have a card that he got to identify the knight. He had the artwork for it, and he got to do the flavor text. And so all of that information came directly from Noah, and we just included it and credited it to him because I don't
Okay.
know where he got it, but it wasn't ours. We didn't make it, so he has it. Even if it was AI, it's that weird wonky. Do you really own the rights or not?
My
So that's where
so
that came from.
I don't have a whole lot to comment on that. Again, I'm not publishing a card game. I would say personally, if it's this backer that helped out a lot, yada yada, they submitted the image. Personally, I would kind of struggle with telling them no, to say, hey, no, that's AI, we can't do it. I
Right.
feel like that would be a tough conversation. I feel like to me the right thing to do would be to say no. Is like, hey, we can get somebody to do this card for you.
Hmm.
Otherwise we could use it, but clarify that. Um, yeah, I 100% understand wanting to have a card with this credit on there, right? It's kind of what he got for being that level of backer. Um, but rather you decided to or not, to include the AI image, especially going forward. 100%. Obviously, it's your call. I can't say for certain that I would make a different call. I'd like to
Yeah.
say that I would say no, we can't do this, but I feel like it would be a hard decision to make there.
Yeah. And we didn't have, that was honestly very low on our list of things to be worried about at the time. So
Right.
we had a ton of other things that were, we were trying to still change card types and get the text right. And the number of conversations I had to have with my designer about, no, it's like, no, I want the text bigger. I want to be able to read it from space kind of thing, and not getting really what I was looking for, and having to send samples of like, look, here's magic alpha cards. Look at, that's like 72-point font. I want
Yeah.
it big. I want it to fill the box. I don't want it to be, I understand it's harder for you because the text box, you could just make it the same font and you just paste new text in there and it's easy, but that's not what I need. I need it to be, morphable based upon the amount of content
Right.
that's in there so that it gets bigger if there's less of it. But so that, like
Kind
I
of, kind of like
said,
Yu-Gi-Oh
but
esque when it comes to that, because they do that a
yeah,
lot. They change their font point a lot on Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
yeah. And I didn't want it like, ridiculously huge, but I did want it to be more, um, just more legible.
And
I did
let's
not
blank
want,
space.
well, yeah, less blank space and more legible for people, so you don't have to sit there and pull out a loop and go,
Yeah.
what does that say? So I really wanted to make it so that people were able to see the cards and play it, and then we had other things that I realized I missed, like, including the word influence and resistance in the text rather than using the symbols. There's things that we found after the fact. We're like, we shouldn't have done that, but we ran out of time, and that was just the problem. So there's just things that, like I said, I wish we could have done differently. We weren't able to, and in particular with Engol, it didn't rise to the level of things I needed to worry
It's
about,
not a
but I totally
priority.
understand the concern.
Right.
Yeah, totally understand the concern. But
So,
and I can ask Noah if that was AI or not. I'm not sure if he used AI for it or not.
kind of branching off from that, when you are getting artwork from artists, are you doing checks
Mhm.
for AI, or are you just kind of taking their word for it that they did make this artwork, specifically?
For some of it, we're just taking their word for it. For some of we didn't like run it through any checkers, but we did look at the content to say, does it look like AI or
Okay.
does it not? Um, for most of the people that were contributing, because we weren't paying them to make it, because it wasn't a commission, it was in essence a donation with a kickback later when we make money. um, we were less discerning about it. So, I mean, I will say that. And there's some things that I'm pretty sure were AI that we didn't catch
Okay.
until after the fact. So,
Um,
um, but yeah, we tried, like for all of the domains, all the lands, I reached out to artists directly that I found like on DeviantArt or on Reddit or whatever and said, hey, look, I like the style, the stuff that you're doing. I need this because if you notice, all of our lands are the Mishra's factories. There's 4 seasons. And so we wanted to have the same scene, 4 different seasons. And you can't really do that effectively in AI. Um, and so that was kind of one of those things where like I reached out to people whose work I saw and liked and said, hey, would you be interested in helping out with this? And so we did commission all of that work. And like I said, some of it, if it was AI, I didn't notice it at the time. So
okay. I imagine that going forward, it's something you're going to be checking for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, we will. I mean, and part of it, I think, is going to be that we're going to say, hey, look, we don't want to accept AI because if it's not from a person, I mean, that kind of violates the intent of our commitment. We do want to have that as our goal moving forward, is that we are going to be including work just from people. So we will be checking to make sure.
okay. I will note that free resources. The 3 AI checkers I used in my video,
Exactly.
they're all free.
Yeah.
One of them had a daily limit, so I had to like go back and redo things, and um, but they're all like, there are paid ones out there. A couple of the paid ones are actually worse than the free ones. They're actually less
Good to
accurate.
know.
I almost paid a decent amount of money for one that was supposed to be really good in their marketing, and I look at reviews and it was terrible. They let you do like a little
Wow.
demo, and I sent it like I generated AI art and sent it to it, and it was like, "This is done by a human." And I'm like, "And you want to charge me like $200 for this?"
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You're like,
um,
"No, I don't think so."
but using more than one source is always big because kind of leading on to the
Mhm.
next category, next question here. The region cards. One
Mhm.
of the ones that I think it was Decopy marked a good number of the region cards as it thought they were AI generated.
Yeah, they
Whereas
definitely were not. I
yeah, the
watched
other
Gene
two were
make
saying
those.
no. So yeah, I just wanted to ask,
Yeah.
like, were any part of it AI generated?
Except for Camelot, no.
Okay.
Everything was done by Gene. She actually has she had the whole map done up as a giant image, and then she chunked out pieces of it for the different
Okay.
region cards, and then she
So you actually
highlighted
have a
them and all
full
that.
map of that.
Yes.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So no, we did no, she was like I
Uh,
said, so
I
that one
didn't
I
think
know
they were. Like
was not yeah.
I even said in the video, like I don't think that they are. But that's another reason that
Yeah,
like whenever you do these AI checks, you can't just rely on one tool because
exactly.
decopy I found to be again I think it was decopy that did it. I found it to be one of the most accurate, but on at least half of the region cards, it was like this is AI. And I think what was throwing it off was it was looking at all of the different fonts that were used. And it
Yeah.
was like, hey, AI likes it doesn't do consistent fonts. Like this is AI.
Yep.
And I'm like, it really
Yeah.
feels like an artistic choice, not AI to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was what she had chosen to do based because there's things about like there's the names of the region, there's the name of cities, there's landmarks, there's um, terrain features, and they're all different. And so yeah, but like I said, you know, she spent probably about 6 months making that, and then coming and then pulling it all together. And that was one of those things that again we were scrambling at the end to get it
right.
because there were like, well, can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? Can we tweak this to do this? Can we just highlight the region and put the rest of it in grayscale? Can we do? And so there was like all of these things to try to highlight because again, some of that feedback that we got from the FEPH was, I don't know what I'm looking at. Why is this person a title? That people should be knights. We're like, oh my God, you're right. We got to redo all the knights and all the titles because they're all wrong because they need to be, you know, the people own the portraits need to be associated with knights only and not with
I get you.
anything else. So it's very easy to identify a knight versus
So
something else.
it's
So
like your Duke cards and stuff like that, where it's almost it's like a crown with a background.
yep,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
and those were originally like pictures of they were portraits of people wearing
okay.
those crowns, those cornets, and we had to change that because of the feedback we got from FEPH, and they're like, "That's a person, that's a knight. I'm going to play it as a knight, even though it says title." Visually it was cueing them in. And so we had to make sure we had to have those changes. And Gene did those as well. And actually they all stacked to make a stained glass window,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
which
Um,
was one of the things I asked her to do, and she was very accommodating in making it happen.
so
So
on that same topic, she is credited on a large number of cards. On the wiki,
yep,
she's credited for all the region cards again, aside from Camelot, which you can confirm. I imagine that is AI.
it is.
Um, but all the other region cards she's credited with on the wiki.
Yep.
Uh, I'm sure this is like a stylistic choice for whatever reason, but why is she not credited on the cards themselves for the region cards? Um,
Um, because it was a spacing, it was a design decision made by my graphic designer for the region cards.
okay.
So,
So
but yeah,
I
that was it.
okay. So if you were to get other artists to do region cards at Camelot, I imagine you have to figure out that issue to
Yeah,
find a place to do artist credits on there.
probably. Yeah, I know where we would probably put it, which is we probably put a little box inside the image space that has
Yeah, because I
that
know the point of it is it
information
can
there.
basically be faced from any direction, right? And so
Correct.
you would almost have to have it on
Yeah,
there
they
twice, or
yeah, well, and all the text reads from one direction, which is the other problem. So when we first kind of came out with this, it was, I wanted it so that it was viewable from both sides, right? I mean, typically it's a dual game, so you're playing against, opposite the other person. So I wanted both people to be able to see it and see the name of the region as well as the resistance of the region and the renown. But as soon as we put words on it, it gave it an orientation.
right.
And so we probably would just keep the same orientation for the artist credit. And if we go back and on the second edition we print it, we'll probably add Gene's name as the artist credit for
Okay,
those cards.
because
I don't think we would be redoing the regions. We will be doing new regions,
right.
however, and those we would want to make sure we include and credit the artists who do those.
Okay. Because yeah, the only reason I really ask is when I was kind of going through everything is that my general rule of thumb when I was pulling cards to these tests on was if it's credited, likely from an actual artist, not AI. If it's not
Yep.
credited, it's AI. And I was like, wow, all other region cards don't have credit, but on the wiki they do. So I was like, I kind of pieced it
Yeah.
together that you just don't have a space for it on the card.
Yeah. And like I said, my graphic designer just made that call
Yeah.
to do that. And like I said, and one of the challenges, of course, is that he dropped out and he's not able to participate anymore. So we don't have a way to really even modify it if we wanted to at this point. So we'd have to redo that. But yeah, that's probably something that we would correct in a future edition.
So one thing you mentioned a lot earlier on in this call, you said that you were looking for artists for about 2 years.
Hmm.
Based on what I saw in your Twitter posts, your first time posting about it was only about a year before the card game had premiered.
Yep. Well, we had started back in. Well, I mean, again, I've been working on this game for about 12 years now. So I'd already been talking to people before we ever got to doing stuff, but we have posted up. There was some things I'm trying to remember when I think it was, well, it was September of 2022, I think, when we formed the company. But before that, we were already looking for artists, and
Okay.
Gene happens to know a lot,
So
and
it was
so
more contacting people that you know and kind of person to person,
yeah,
not online advertising trying to find them.
correct. Yeah, well, I mean, we were reaching out to like RimCAD, Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. We were reaching out to high schools. We were reaching out to the universities in the area, that kind of stuff. We were trying to find again people who were not like published artists who already had a huge portfolio and stuff. The people that we saw at cons and stuff, they were out of our price range.
Yeah.
So we just couldn't do anything about that. And
And it kind
so
of helps them
we
get their foot
began.
in the door.
Right, and so that was the intent, was talk to people like one of the artists that we have, Fallon Bell, who did several of the cards, was a high school student when she submitted. So we were trying to do that, and so we were trying to focus on people who were local in the area, like Front Range, Colorado, maybe Rocky Mountain West kind of thing. And so I reached out to several colleges and universities. We reached out to several high schools, their art departments, and just tried to get a hold of people and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. We'd love it if your students would have a conversation with us about, like, submitting art. And, again, and we did that probably for about 6 to 10 months. And then we started, okay, we're not getting enough.
Right.
The pace that we're getting things is not going to get us. Let's start running contests. Let's start running submissions. Let's start doing things. Let's advertise on DeviantArt. Let's advertise on Reddit. Let's advertise on art contest sites. I mean, I pretty much hit up everything I possibly could, trying to get stuff without just directly commissioning every single piece of art, because that was just financially untenable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people would say, well, then your game isn't feasible. And you're like, well, okay, just, agree to disagree on that one, but understand that that's, our intent was help bring people into this profit sharing model. The pieces that we did that we have commissioned, and we have those are ours. But I'd rather that the artist is still able to benefit from
Uh,
that stuff.
I will say
So,
I tend to hate that argument of like, it's not feasible. I think a lot of things like that, there are always ways around. I've done plenty of projects myself that like, through YouTube and everything else that if I were to show people the money that I have coming in and the contacts that I have and tell them what I want to do, the response would be it's not feasible. And it's like you find a way to make things work. Uh,
yep.
I, I I I still think probably my biggest disagreement throughout all this is, and again this is personal choice, is I wouldn't have gone AI at all. I think using AI as a placeholder for behind the scenes play testing, for you and anybody else that's working on the card game to get a feel for what you want to do, or to even show to an artist, like, hey, this is the vibe that we're going for.
Hmm.
I think all of that's fine. My biggest thing is I still think it could have been feasible without the AI art. I kind of mentioned in the video, even just doing a dumb little doodle, like your first set could have been, and this is personal opinion here. Your first set could have been, you know, these are the cards by actual artists, and then here are the other approximately like 57%, I think was the math I got on it. Yeah, 57% of cards are, you know, like having Gene or someone just do like basic, like very basic, almost just like line work or little funny things, right? And you could literally
Hmm.
credit the card as like your art here, something like that, right? It would kind of get the point
Right.
across that you're still looking for artists, and this card doesn't have one yet.
Right.
Instead of it just being blank down there. Uh, uh, to me, like I said, using AI in a conceptual phase is fine. And to that point, I even think, I personally wouldn't do it, but I also think that selling the AI cards is perfectly fine as well if it's disclosed, and that was my biggest issue.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Again, personally, I wouldn't have released it that way. I feel like the I feel like it's almost like a trap, right? Again, like we're talking about feasibility. I do think it's feasible to do what you've done without the AI being part of the release. I feel like that might have just been the easier way out, personally. And again, I'm not trying to attack you here. That's just the way that I feel
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the easier solution, and I get it. Launching a card game isn't easy. You're trying to get with the distributors. You're trying to get contacts, the game balance itself, the lore, you have a lot of things going on. Um, to me, I know you said it's in like 12 years. It almost feels like it's been closer to 2 years of, 10 years of planning up here and some note taking and stuff like that, and then 2 years of, and no offense, rushing it out the door. Um, I'm trying to think of how uh, how to more clearly, like put it into words, I suppose. Um,
I think I understand what you're getting at. I mean, and like I said, there were some, there are um, a lot of people who share your viewpoint. Like I said, this other Discord I'm on, Tabletop Aces. AI is just, kind of verboten. It's like it's just looked down upon. It's like, oh, you're cheating. You're not a real, card designer kind of thing. And I mean, they're not quite that harsh, but
right,
that's
right,
kind of the vibe. Um, and but like I said, I when I talked to some of the guys, in person, I met him at cons and stuff, and we talked about like, hey, look, here's what happened, here's why we did this way, and they're like, that makes sense, and I totally understand it. I might not do that, but I understand why you did it.
right.
Um, and so, again, it's one of those things where, yes, it is what it is. And we didn't disclose it, and we have disclosed it now. And it's very clear on our site. It's very clear on our stores, that we've added that content, for the game, so that people know that, hey, look, you're gonna get AI, artwork on the cards, in some of the things that you buy, whether it's a starter deck or whether it's a booster pack, a treasure pack. There's going to be AI art in there, and that's up to you if you want to buy it or not. Again, I think we've got a very solid game. I think that was
And
the
for
majority.
from what I've seen, that's
When
what I've
we
been hearing is from people who've actually played it, is that it is a very solid gameplay.
Yeah. The one so the thing is that there are some games that are art projects that have a game component. And then there are card games that have art. And we are the latter, but we don't have as much of the art. And again, we always tried to get as much art from people as possible. So, could we have delayed and gotten more art? That's a tough call. I think we did a lot of outreach, a lot of direct contacts, and without like going into massive debt to commission everything, we did the best we could. Um, but if that's good enough for some people, fantastic. If it's not, then fantastic. I totally understand the concern, and I totally understand that the lack of transparency left a bad taste in some people's mouths. And we're working to correct that, to
I
make sure that it's clear that yes, we did, and our commitment is to not in the future, but we acknowledge that we did, and we weren't as forthcoming about it as we should have been, and needed to be.
I 100% applaud you for you know correcting it, for going transparent on it. I'm sure there's a lot of other people who would not have made that same decision. Um,
Hmm. Totally.
uh,
I know many of them.
what
So
One of my biggest fears going into this conversation, aside from my general anxiety, is that
your general anxiety, you're the one grilling me.
um, is
You're
that
coming at this from the good perspective. I'm the miscreant here.
my concern is that it would have you would have been more defensive, and I do like what you're doing here,
Yeah.
and I think if I've liked the way this conversation has gone. My
Thank you.
fear is that you were going to come into this and say like, no, we knew we couldn't get the art in time and yada yada, but you didn't, right? Um, you weren't coming in here defending all of your decisions. You were explaining why you made them at the time,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what I was hoping for out of this, because I like the project that you're doing, and my fear is that this video would hurt your project, not help it. And I feel like this video is either going to be neutral or help it,
Yeah.
based on this conversation here. I'll say this: if if you're able to release your next expansion and there's no AI, I will happily do a full dedicated video on it. um, After all of this,
Appreciate that. I
um,
appreciate it. Yeah.
but
And I mean, I appreciate that, because I think that, to your point, some people are going to look at this and go, oh, they knew they had AI and they still released it, screw those guys. Yeah, okay, you're right. And, like, again, there are people who are going to feel that way. And I completely understand that feeling. Um, and there's other people who are going to look at it and say, I really don't care. How does the game play? Because that's what I'm really doing, is playing the game. And the art's nice to look at, but it's not a core requirement. And so you get multiple camps,
yeah,
and I completely understand all of the different perspectives. I've been there. Um, and it's hard. Making a game is very, very hard, especially a trading card game. I met with one of the head guys over at Foam Brain, and he came by our booth at Origins, and he's like, "Oh, so you're making this trading card game, huh?" We're like, "Yes, we made one." He goes, "That's the hardest segment of the hardest market in the world? They're like, yeah, we're pretty much aware.
Yeah.
So we know it's really hard, and sometimes you don't make very good decisions, and sometimes you make decisions that are not the best ones, but they're the best option you have. Um, they're the best of the worst decisions that you're making the best decision of the worst options. And so, we are where we are, and all we can do is look forward from here and really try to find ways to do better in the future. But then also, again, sort of reaffirming that commitment that we're not going to make the mistake of not being transparent because we've already rectified that, but we're also not going to be doing anything that is violating our core intent for the game, which is to have, art from people, and hopefully people who are up and coming artists who don't have a huge portfolio, and they get to include, hey, I did Arthur for a trading card game, and have that as in their portfolio. And I'd love to have that. That would be
Yeah.
something that would be fantastic, to be able to support someone who's starting their career and doing those things.
And I can
And I
tell
just wish we
you,
had better ways to get a hold of them.
yeah, and I can tell you, some people, again, like my wife, she does a lot of experiments with, and she does all kinds of artwork. She does digital art, she
Mhm.
does hand drawn, she makes stuff with resin, stuff with clay, all kinds of weird things. And even if she didn't make a penny off of it, I'm sure she would be happy to know that she had artwork on in a card game, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's not going to be enough for a good number of people, but some people that would just be like a cool thing to be able to brag about.
Yep.
Um, so I know that it's super late in the video, and it's worth noting again. I'm a Pokemon channel, so this probably isn't going to help you a whole lot. Again, I branch out, I do other things, but that is my primary thing. So this video
Yep.
isn't gonna do gangbusters. Just like my original
I,
video on Roundtable. Um,
it's I don't I'm more interested in getting this conversation to your viewers, because I think there's a not insignificant percentage who are interested in
yeah,
what happened, why did they, what's going on, and what's being done. And I think that's, from my perspective, that's the part that I want to make sure that we had a chance to sort of tie off,
well,
and really answer the questions that you had, that your viewers have asked as well.
Well, I just wanted to mention, if you the on we can discuss it later, but I can include a link down in the pinned comment of where people can go to submit for artwork, to apply to do
Please, that'd
artwork
be great.
on this video. Again, I wouldn't expect it to blow up your inbox or anything.
Hey,
There's no fuzzy creatures on this thumbnail, so it's not
yeah,
going to bring a bunch of people in from my normal audience. Um, but
yeah, no, that'd be
hopefully it
great,
can help get
because
some more word out. Because
two pieces of art would be better than what we have right now. Yeah. So that's anything we can get. We are still actively looking. And again, if when we print, the expectation is that we've got a lot of cards from the Primus edition, but if we were to get new artwork, we may actually print versions of a second printing for
yeah,
like a beta, with that artwork instead.
right.
So we're open to that idea. We haven't really done much, and again, we really want Roundtable to have more of a footprint, um, before we really get into, like, hey, what does the next expansion look like? And so a lot of our energy has been focused on building the base of Roundtable players first, and then we can start worrying about, like, okay, how do we make these people even happier? They've got a good game. We're going to add stuff to it and mess with their minds. And we hope they're going to like that. And then we're going to do this, and we're going to, expand it and do Scotland and Ireland, and add all those knights in, and all those places into the regions. And, we've got all these ideas for future expansions, but
And
really just getting connected with people. I did actually hit up all the cons this year, and I went down to every single row of all the artists, found the ones I liked, got their cards. And so when we get to that point, I'll be contacting them and saying, hey, here's our situation, and Is this a model that you would be interested in participating in? And if not, that's totally cool. And if so, that's even better. So
Okay.
hopefully, again, using things people already have. I don't want to have people make stuff especially for the game. But if they already got stuff, like I've seen tons of things on Reddit, like, oh, look, it's a fantasy night. Cool. Give it to me.
And it's
I want to use it. I need your permission, and we
and
can
being
include it in the game.
being realistic about it, if I'm an artist and I'm concerned that I'm going to spend 2, 3, 4 days making a piece, then
Mhm.
your card game doesn't make profit, and your card game ceases
Right.
to exist, or it continues on in this we're not bleeding money, we're not making
Limbo
money
state. Yeah.
zone.
Yep.
Then I'm never gonna see anything back for it. So
Right.
I understand that that mentality, but at the same time, yeah, I
Yeah.
think going for artwork that again they retain the rights to, and it's stuff that they've already created. Like, hey, you've already put the time into it. If you want it, if you're okay with it being printed on a card, you could make something off of it down the line. Should Roundtable become successful, and by you contributing to it, it increases the odds that Roundtable does become successful.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a bit of a snowball effect, right? You're afraid to
Yep.
be one of the first ones in, because what if nothing comes of it? But if
Exactly.
you decide to be one of the first ones in, you're helping something become of it.
Well, yeah, that's the hope. And so that was, I mean, that was the thing is, again, we were hoping that people already had stuff sort of in their back pocket that they'd already done, they already had in their portfolio. And it's like, hey, look, here's a night. Do you like it or not? Um, and that, yeah, that anything that they do make, obviously it goes in their portfolio. They can put it up on ArtStation or DeviantArt or whatever and have it available for people to look at, to comment on, to upvote,
Yeah.
get that kind of traction there. And we're just simply including it in our game. And if we make any money, they get something for it. But again, we're not. I mean, I think that the model that we had was very generous to the artists. It was just a matter of we weren't connecting with the right artists, I think, was the problem. And some of the things, I mean, how many, I can't tell you how many hours I spent into the wee hours of the morning cruising DeviantArt and ArtStation
Yeah.
and Reddit, trying to find people and contacting them and hearing nothing because their account was dead. Or they hadn't posted in 5 years, but they had really cool stuff and I really wanted to include it, but never heard anything. So it was really disappointing and disheartening. And so we ended up, like I said, we did what we had. We did what we did, and um, if we had our druthers, we would have had something else. But unfortunately, we just kind of ended up where we ended up. So
Okay. Um. So, and I guess just to wrap things up, is there anything else you wanted to mention? Anything else you wanted to say here? Um.
I don't. I feel like I feel very appreciative that we've had the opportunity to chat about it and to clear the not clear the air, but to have the opportunity to discuss a very not potentially not very happy thing and very difficult conversation. And to your point, if I come at this from a different perspective, this could have been a much more confrontational conversation. But I think that our feelings on it were not dissimilar from how a lot of folks feel about it, and um, it was definitely not our original intent when we first started talking about this, actually doing this probably, 2 years, 3 years ago now, um, more than 3 years ago. That was not the intent. And certainly when everybody was like, yeah, no, yeah, of course, I'd love it to be Magic. I'd love it to be that popular. People pull out like, hey, let's play some Roundtable. That'd be great. It's not going to happen. And I look at other games. I've talked with Flesh and Blood. I've talked with the guys who did Grand Archive. There's what is it, Echoes of Astra or something? There's a new game just got funded on Kickstarter. Um, it's on Tabletop Aces Discord, and they like hit like $750,000, and I'm like, cool. That's like only 7.5 times more than I got. I must be nice, I didn't get anything near that.
Yeah, echoes of Astra.
So yeah, and it looks really good. And I've been seeing all of the artwork getting posted by these people, and there's some outstanding pieces in some of these things. But when you're working with one particular artist, then it's like how quickly can that person work? And then how big is your game? And do you go LCG, ECG, or TCG? And then there's all those questions and things that come up, and it's hard because what we wanted to do was a TCG, which is the hardest thing in the market, and it's competing against a bunch of other TCGs, and we have we don't have marketing, we don't have good sales techniques, we're just not great at this stuff. What we are good at is game development, and so that's where our effort is, and that's what we think is the core um, selling point of the game. And I wish it was also the artwork, but the pieces that we got from the people that submitted are absolutely
Yeah.
outstanding. I could not be happier with what we actually got and the work that people submitted and the work that they did to um, get something to us that we could use. And it was just absolutely outstanding, and I'm so impressed and humbled that they would trust us with that. And as you pointed out, they're taking a risk. They're putting their name on something that could have been utter crap.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the game, the core mechanics and the gameplay and stuff is making the game fun for people, and that the artwork, the people who submitted work are proud of the game that it's associated with. And we hope to do better by them in the future.
Okay. Well, again, I apologize for some of my issues with delays in email. I'm really bad when it comes to emails. I'm trying to get better.
It's okay. Apparently, I am too. Don't worry about it. I didn't see your email from Saturday until this morning. I was like, "What the? How did I miss this?"
I fumbled like my first potential sponsor that I was actually going to take because I just forgot to respond to them. Like,
I understand. I understand.
Always a problem. But
Yeah.
thanks for having this chat. If you
Absolutely.
want to send me this whatever link you think is best for people who want to submit artwork for this.
Yes, I will.
Hopefully this video will be up pretty soon.
Okay.
I think that's about it.
Yeah. I think we might still have an actual submission link up on the blog post or post up on the website. I'll send you the link.
Perfect.
And I'll do it in Discord so that you actually get it.
Okay. Well, thanks for chatting, and
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
yeah. Have a good day.
You too. Have a great evening.